Hi, welcome to the Homicide Canada podcast. I'm Phil, and I'm here with my co-host and producer Tami. This is episode 83 of the podcast. Today we're going to do our rundown of all the homicides that happened in Canada in June. So our June rundown episode. Just a few things on the top. At the top, we got a website in case you haven't listened before, but we have a website associated with this podcast, homicidecanada.com. Basically, we tried to have a page for every homicide we can find that happens in Canada. We're also on social media. So basically, Twitter, X, whatever you want, or whatever you call it. We're on Facebook, Instagram. I don't know. Just search us there. I'm sure we'll come up. We have an email address. We get emails sometimes. Sometimes if we miss a murder, people will tell us. info@homicidecanada.com. We don't check it every day, but we check it a couple times a week. So if we don't get back to you right away, don't worry. We'll get to you. So this episode, there's been some interesting murders that occurred, Tami, in November and that. So, or not November, in June. I'm getting way ahead of myself. So, So, all right. So what we always do for these podcasts, before we get into discussing the individual murders, we'll get through some stats. So, today, year to date that we've tracked the number of homicides, 314 total. That projects out to 548 for the year. And that's compares to the 583 we found last year. So I don't know. We could still be still decreasing, it seems, because I think in 2024 there was a lot more homicides than that. So people murdering each other less. That's good to see. Let's see here. So for women, that's 69 homicides we found. So that projects out to 121 for the year versus 143 we found last year. And then for men, 225 homicides, projects out to 393, which is similar to the 404 we found last year. So
yeah, that's pretty close.
Seems like the bit of the reduction we've seen is kind of more for women, and I guess maybe some of the unknown homicides we've found. The overall murder rate right now we have is at 1.32 for Canada, so yeah, that's pretty good. All right, what province is ahead, or which province has the most murders per capita or per 100,000? We always do this on these podcasts. Saskatchewan is on top with 4.0 for 2026 per 100,000 annualized. Manitoba's close behind, though, at 3.94. So I think Saskatchewan earlier in the year was way ahead, but now Manitoba's catching up. And then there's a big drop down to British Columbia with only 1.81 homicides per 100,000. Then Nova Scotia, 1.44. Alberta, 1.28. Ontario 1.06, Quebec 0.79, New Brunswick 0.6, Newfoundland 0.32, and PEI still without a homicide. So that's pretty good. Usually I also tell you the individual city rates, but I refactored my code last night with Cursor AI and screwed up my program.
Oh, no.
I don't have it.
So you can't count on AI all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So come back next month. Also on Twitter, we often post that. So yeah, you can check it. It'll usually once a week we'll post that. So.
Okay, so the June homicide stats, there were 45 homicides in June 2026 versus 58 in 2025. So that's a 22% decrease. There were 36 males and 9 females.
Oh, that's a pretty big decrease.
Yeah, considering wasn't last month higher?
I think so, yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty, well, in Southern Ontario where we do the podcast, it was pretty hot.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We're always our conjecture is that, heat makes people murderous. But surprisingly, not for this June and that, at least compared to last year. And
people are staying in.
Yeah, it's too hot. Yeah. Maybe that's the thing. It's going to can get too cold or too hot, then people stay in and don't kill each other. And we managed to know this time all the genders.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, there's usually a few there that they don't tell us, but got them all that. So that's good for statistics. All right. So the youngest and oldest murders that happened in June, we always do this for these rundown episodes. Hold on here. Let me get it queued up. So for the youngest, it's kind of a tie. 2 separate cases. So one 7-year-old in Calgary was killed by his mother, who then took her own life. And then the second was a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old boy who were killed by their father in Ottawa, who then took his own life. And we'll talk about that later. So that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
2 different, 3 kids that were killed by their parents and that. The oldest was 78-year-old Douglas Moyse in Muscoecan. Oh, geez. Musqueam First Nation in Saskatchewan. Investigators said officers with the Punitchy RCMP responded to reports of a serious assault at a home on the morning of June 10th. They believe one or more suspects forced their way into the residence, attacked Moyes, and then fled the scene. Moyes was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries, but later died. His death prompted Saskatchewan RCMP's major crime units to take over the investigation, which is now being treated as a homicide. Police believe the assault happened sometime between the evening of June 9th and the morning of June 10th. The investigation is continuing, and RCMP are asking anyone who noticed suspicious activity in the area during that time or anyone who had contact with Douglas Moyes on June 9th to contact police. Tips can also be submitted anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Yeah, that's a kind of a sad one that a 70-year-old gets assaulted at a home and and they still haven't caught anyone yet.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. There's still time. So, all right. The number of homicides per province: Ontario on top with 18, Quebec with 11, Manitoba with 5, Saskatchewan with 5, Alberta with 3, Nova Scotia with 2, BC with 1, and all the other provinces and territories didn't have a single homicide in June.
I think that's the highest monthly amount for Quebec this year.
It probably is, yeah, because they haven't really had that much this year. So,
in the cities with more than one homicide, Montreal had 5, Winnipeg had 5, Toronto had 4, Ottawa had 3, Calgary had 2, and Mississauga had 2. And murders by type: 22 still unknown, 12 shootings, 4 stabbings, 3 beatings, and 4 other. And I think the others consist of fire and vehicle related.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, this one, a lot of unknown, this one.
Yeah.
So, okay. So domestic murders in June, so that's that we know of. So 51-year-old Sushmita Baskaran was killed in Lévis, Quebec. Martin Carrier, 61, the alleged ex-partner of Baskaran, faces charges of first-degree murder and improperly or indecently interfering with a dead human body. So I assume that he killed her and then buried her somewhere or something similar.
Moved her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
45-year-old Jen Foster was killed by her partner, 46-year-old Brian Ryback, who then died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in Barrie, Ontario. Victor Konokov has been charged with first-degree murder in connection with the death of his wife, Olga Konokova, in Ottawa. She went missing in January 2026.
Isn't that interesting that their last names are almost the same, but not?
I think in Russian they change, if
They
you're
just add
male
an A?
and female, they change it slightly. So
Ah.
I know, I'm sure we have some listeners that know Russian. They're like, yeah, that's what, or maybe I don't know.
That's normal.
I think that's what they do. So, anyways, 70-year-old Carol Sangwin and 71-year-old Garwood Sangwin were killed by their adult son, Jordan Sangwin, in Mississauga, Ontario. 74-year-old Susan Meyer of Peterborough was found in the water near the London Street footbridge. She was rushed to hospital where she died of her injuries. Her daughter, 45-year-old Sarah Jane Meyer, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder in connection with the case. You don't often see that,
No.
daughter killing a parent, but it happens sometimes. That Calgary murder-suicide that we talked about earlier, involving the mother and the 7-year-old, and then the 7-year-old and 12-year-old boy that were killed by their own father, Al Lamy in Ottawa, who then took his own life. Okay. One thing I wanted to highlight just when we're talking statistically, Edmonton only has 8 homicides right now, which is pretty low
That's
for
low.
them, because that projects out to 14 for the year, and they had 32 last year.
Yeah.
And their 5-year average is 35.6 homicides. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on in Edmonton, but they're...
If we've missed some, let us know.
Yeah, I think they're killing each other less. So, all right. So now the noteworthy June murders. So this is odd for Canada. In the month of June, 3 different police officers were killed in the line of duty. It's pretty rare, I think, in Canada for a police officer to get killed in the line of duty and that. And for 3 to get killed in 1 month that's very unusual. So the first one, an Ontario provincial police officer died after being seriously injured while assisting with an investigation near Hearst, Ontario on Tuesday afternoon. The officer has been identified as Constable Taron Bally, who served with the OPP for 2.5 years. He was assigned to the Dufferin OPP detachment and was temporarily deployed with the James Bay OPP detachment at the time of the incident. Police said the incident happened around 12:30 on June 9th while officers were conducting an investigation. According to the OPP, 18-year-old Justin Veronneau was taken into custody and has been charged with first-degree murder, assaulting a police officer, 2 counts of flight from police, resisting arrest, dangerous driving, and dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death. So they basically threw the book at him, although admittedly the first-degree murder charge is the most important. The OPP alleges that Veronneau had left the hospital while undergoing a mental health act assessment and was driving a vehicle that struck and killed Constable Bally as officers attempted to take him into custody. The investigation remains ongoing, and anyone with information is asked to contact the police. I think that what'll be interesting in that is to see if Veronneau's lawyer, if he's going to ask for NCR.
Yeah.
So if they
I'm
were,
sure that's possible
Yeah.
for that case.
but we'll see what happens. And obviously, there's a lot more scrutiny than there normally would for the average murder. The fact that it was a police officer.
Yeah. Toronto police are mourning the loss of Constable Mark Pinisato, who was killed in the line of duty while officers were executing a search warrant in the city's northwest end. On the morning of June 11th, Toronto Police Service and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police launched a coordinated series of 5 high-risk search warrants across the Greater Toronto Area. The operation targeted what investigators described as criminals for hire gun network, allegedly connected to 27 shootings, including the March 2026 attack on the U.S. consulate.
Wow, that's I don't know. I'm not shocked at that somebody's kind of like shooting at the U.S. Embassy or consulate in Toronto during these days. Not that I condone it, but I'm amazed that they're just kind of hiring randos to do it. So,
among the officers taking part in the operation was Constable Pinisato, an 18-year veteran with the Toronto Police who had spent the previous 5 years with the Emergency Task Force and the Specialized Tactical Unit that responds to high-risk incidents. Just before 5:45 a.m., officers executed a search warrant for a 4th-floor apartment near Treneth Drive and Martha Eaton Way in North York. According to police, an exchange of gunfire erupted during the operation, critically injuring Constable Pinisato. He was rushed to Sunnybrook Hospital, where he later died of his injuries. A 19-year-old man, Nicholas Bennett, was also injured during the shooting. He was transported to hospital, arrested, and later charged with first-degree murder in connection with Constable Pinisato's death. As the investigation continued, police identified a second suspect, 19-year-old Zara Jabi, who was already wanted in connection with the March shooting at the U.S. consulate.
That Jabi's male, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Investigators urged Jabi to surrender, warning the public that he was considered armed and dangerous. Less than a week later, on June 17, 2026, Toronto police announced that Jabi had been arrested. He was charged with theft of a motor vehicle, possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000, discharging a restricted or prohibited firearm at a place attacking internationally protected persons, possession of a firearm knowing its possession was unauthorized, and possession of a loaded, prohibited, restricted firearm. So a lot of charges there. The investigation into the alleged gun for hire network and the circumstances surrounded Pinisato's death remain ongoing.
So yeah, that's kind of wild that that they, I guess, attacked the consulate and then I guess just didn't want to go down for that. So.
Yeah, wasn't there a shooting at the consulate today as well?
I think there was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Strange times.
All right. And now the third police killing in the month of June. So that was in Montreal, and a shooting that leaves 3 dead, including a police officer, a civilian, and the suspect. The incident began at approximately 11:35 a.m. near the intersection of Courtray Avenue and Trans Island Avenue, where Montreal Police, SPAVM, responded to reports of an armed individual. According to police, the individual was seen pointing a firearm out of a window at the Hilton Hotel. As officers arrived, the situation quickly escalated, prompting a large-scale emergency response. Authorities urged residents to avoid the area while heavily armed officers secured the neighborhood. By midday, an emergency alert warned residents that an armed and dangerous suspect was at large. Those within the area bounded by Côte de Neige Road, McDonald Street, Highway 40, and Queen Mary Road were instructed to shelter indoors, lock their doors, stay away from windows, and follow police instructions. According to CTV News, one nearby resident reported hearing between 10 and 12 gunshots in rapid succession before seeing families and children fleeing a nearby park in panic as police rushed into the area. At approximately 1:22, Montreal police announced the suspect had been neutralized. Authorities initially confirmed that 2 police officers and 1 civilian had been injured in the incident. Shortly afterward, police announced that one of the wounded officers had died from his injuries. The fallen officer was later identified as Constable Mohammed Lamini Ben Rudain. He was 34 years old. Officials also confirmed that a second officer, a female member of the SPVM, remained in critical condition. Investigators later confirmed that both the suspect and the individual also died as a result of the confrontation, bringing the death total to 3. According to CBC News, the civilian was identified as Michael Mizrahi. The suspect was identified as Seth Scott Hatfield, 25, of Lethbridge, Alberta. So he came across the country to do
weird.
this. So, okay. According to the Gazette, Hatfield appears to have authored a 104-page manifesto containing themes associated with the so-called involuntary incel movement. The document reportedly advocates political violence and terrorism in support of its ideology, while blaming feminism, liberalism, and capitalism for the challenges faced by men. So he didn't like capitalism either. And also proposes creating a societal system that would severely restrict women's economic independence and personal autonomy. Investigators have not publicly confirmed whether the manifesto directly motivated the attack, and the investigation into the suspect's motives remains ongoing. Police continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the deadly confrontation. Authorities have not yet released additional details regarding the sequence of events that led to the shooting. I don't know if you saw, but I saw one video online that sort of showed the video and showed and I believe some people were speculating that actually the civilian was killed by one of the police rather than
interesting.
than the suspect, and it kind of looked at that from my way, but I can't confirm that. But I don't know if you want, I think you can probably find it on the internet. So
yeah, I'm sure it's on Twitter somewhere.
Yeah.
Ottawa police are investigating the tragic murder-suicide that claimed the lives of the 2 young boys we talked about earlier and their father, following a series of events that unfolded in eastern Ontario. So according to investigators, 40-year-old Mohammed Al-Lami allegedly killed his 7 and 12-year-old sons at their home in Ottawa in the Finley Creek neighborhood overnight between Sunday and Monday, June 29th. Police later revealed that Al-Lami was on probation at the time of the death after being convicted earlier this year for threatening his ex-wife in 2024. Court records show that he had repeatedly blamed his ex-wife and the family court system for his legal troubles. He rejected a peace bond that would have resolved the criminal case because he insisted that he had done nothing wrong and wanted a trial to prove he was right. His lawyer eventually withdrew from the case, and their professional relationship broke down. At trial, Al-Lami represented himself and offered little defense despite evidence that he had sent violent and graphic threats to his wife. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 12 months of probation with a non-contact order except for limited communication regarding access to his children. After the killing, investigators believe Al-Lami drove to his dental clinic in Iroquois, Ontario, where he allegedly poured gasoline throughout the business and set it on fire, causing an explosion that severely damaged the building. No one else was injured in the blaze. A short time later, OPP responded to a vehicle fire at Kemptville carpool lot near Highway 416 and Rideau River Road. Inside the burned vehicle, officers discovered the body of an adult man later identified as Al-Lami. Police believe he died by suicide. Hours later, at approximately 10 a.m., Ottawa police attended a home on Mandevilla Crescent after receiving requests for a wellness check. Inside, officers found the bodies of the 2 boys, ages 7 and 12. The Ottawa Police Service Homicide Unit ultimately took over the investigation, and as investigators searched for the father's vehicle, they discovered a handwritten multi-page note which Al-Lami blames his ex-wife in the court system, like we said. He claimed he had been unfairly labeled as the abuser, argued that the courts favored mothers over fathers, and named several people he believed had wronged him. Police contacted those individuals to ensure their safety. Experts in intimate partner violence said this pattern of blaming others instead of accepting responsibility is considered a significant warning sign of abusive behavior. Police say the investigation spans multiple crime scenes across eastern Ontario, including the family home, the burned dental clinic, and the fire near Kemptville. Investigators have concluded that the deaths are the result of a murder-suicide because the father is believed to be the only suspect and there will be no criminal prosecution. And out of respect for the mother's wishes, the family and the family's privacy. The name of the two boys will not be released.
Yeah, like interesting that he was like a dentist in that. So
Yeah.
obviously not a particularly low paid profession in that, but
No, but
yeah.
I guess anyone can have mental health
Yeah.
issues.
So I guess pretty much blamed his ex-wife, and yeah, pretty sad results. Okay. So the next one, George Popton dies in Longueuil, Quebec, following an altercation with a security guard at an IGA. So on the evening of June 16, 2026, a 42-year-old hearing impaired man died following a confrontation with a security guard in Longueuil, Quebec. At approximately 6:45, Longueuil police were called to 1401 Chemin de Chamblay after receiving reports of an unconscious man following what authorities described as a physical intervention involving a security guard. According to information turned by Le Journal, the security guard believed he was confronting a suspected shoplifter when he stopped Georges Potvin as he exited the IGA grocery store at the Jacques Cartier shopping center. The 20-year-old security guard was reportedly working undercover, dressed in civilian clothing, and posing as an ordinary customer while monitoring shoppers inside the store. When emergency crews arrived, they found the victim, Georges Potvin, 42, unresponsive. He was transported to hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. Investigators determined that Potvin was placed in a chokehold during the altercation. Potvin's partner, Karine Gemme, said doctors initially informed her that he had suffered a stroke and fallen into a coma. The 20-year-old security guard involved in the incident was arrested and interviewed by investigators. Following an investigation, he was formally charged with manslaughter in connection with Potvin's death, and the case remains before the court. So, yeah, it's interesting that obviously shoplifting is a pretty big problem in Canada now. But obviously, you probably don't want a death to result from like a shoplifting charge or a shoplifting incident in that. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll keep following this case to see what ends up happening and what ends up happening to the security guard.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Maybe Quebec has different rules, but like when I used to work in retail, if someone was shoplifting, you weren't allowed to touch them because this could happen,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So
Homicide investigation was underway in Greater Sudbury after a man was found dead inside a tent that caught fire in Energy Court in the morning hours of June 11th. Emergency crews responded to the report of two tents on fire at approximately 3:40 a.m. Responders discovered a deceased individual inside one of the tents. Investigators determined that several people were seen fleeing the area shortly after the fires began around 3:20. The circumstances surrounding the event led authorities to treat the fires as suspicious. Detectives from the Greater Sudbury Police Service Major Crime Section were working alongside Ontario Fire Marshal's Office and have identified the suspects responsible. So at the time, a warrant was issued for 33-year-old Brandon Gamling McEwen, who was wanted on charges of first-degree murder, possession of a weapon, multiple counts of arson, and possession of incendiary materials. And at approximately 9:30 p.m. on June 16th, members of the Emergency Response Unit and the K-9 unit arrested Brandon Gamling McEwen at 744 Bruce Avenue. He's been held in custody ever since, so he's not out on bail. And just after 3 a.m. on July 22nd, members of the Greater Sudbury Patrol Operations Unit arrested Brian Eshquib on Energy Court without incident. So it seems he was at the scene of the crime.
as well.
Well, he must have been, like Energy Court. I think it's a homeless encampment.
Okay, all right.
So he must have participated and then went back to his tent. He was taken into police custody and scheduled to appear on bail later that day. So I'm not sure if he's on bail, but if he's homeless, he's probably not getting out on bail.
Yeah.
No one's going to pay that, I would think. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that, like, obviously in Canada, there's a lot more homeless encampment, like tent encampments across the country since basically COVID, although not that there wasn't any before, but there's certainly, I think, more now. And yeah, this is like, there's been like a surprising number of like tent fires.
Yeah, I think there's been 3 this year.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to say, but yeah, obviously a person's pretty vulnerable in that and in a tent and that. But it's just amazing just how many different cases there are that's happening with this. So.
And especially the second man, Brian Eshquib, like he was part of that tent community, I'm guessing. Like, why else would he be there?
And I forget, did you say there was 2 tents set on fire then?
Yeah, only one deceased person.
So, yeah, like I don't, like obviously, whatever. I assume their thought process. Like I'm not sure exactly what they were trying, but it like they lit multiple tents on fire. So
Yeah, though I imagine if you set one tent on fire, it's not hard for a second
I
tent to
suppose that's probably
catch
true too.
fire.
All right. Toronto police have charged 3 people in connection with the city's 14th homicide of 2026 after a 32-year-old man was fatally assaulted and struck by a vehicle in North York. So the incident occurred at approximately 6:01 a.m. on June 14th, 2026, when Toronto police responded to an unknown trouble call near Keele Street and Wilson Avenue. So that's pretty early. Well, I don't
Yeah,
know. I think it continued from the night before, but I could be
yeah.
wrong. According to investigators, confrontation involving several individuals broke out in the area. During the altercation, Eric Safar, 32 of Toronto, was allegedly assaulted before being struck by a vehicle. Paramedics and police officers attempted life-saving measures at the scene, but Safar was pronounced dead shortly afterward. Police said the suspects fled the area in a light-colored vehicle following the incident. As the investigation progressed, detectives released a photograph of Safar and appealed to residents, business owners, and motorists who were in the area at the time to review any security camera or dash cam footage that could assist investigators. So then 2 suspects surrendered on June 16th, 2026. Two men turned themselves in Toronto police. So one was Milan Andras Babos, 18 of Hamilton, who was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. And then Richard Ola, 23 of Toronto, also surrendered to police and was charged with second-degree murder. A third suspect was identified as the investigation continued. And then police announced that Jennifer Ola, 25 of Toronto, was wanted on a charge of second-degree murder in connection with Safar's death. And then on June 22nd, Toronto police announced that Ola, or Jennifer Ola, and that's spelled differently than it's spelled Dzsenifer, which I looked up, I think is a Hungarian spelling, had turned herself in over the weekend. She's arrested and formally charged with second-degree murder. The homicide investigation goes ongoing. Investigators continue to ask anyone information or anyone who may have security camera or dash cam footage from the area around the time of the incident to contact Toronto police. So yeah, it's a sad one. I saw some speculation on the internet that it was about noise and that.
Oh,
Some people might be making noise and somebody might not have been happy with it. And then, getting run over. It's pretty sad. And
yeah,
all right, at least we've had some arrests.
yeah. Brampton man has been charged with second-degree murder following the death of a 47-year-old man in Aurelia's Scout Valley. The investigation began on the evening of June 3rd, 2026, when officers with the Ontario Provincial Police responded to Scout Valley off Old Berry Road in West Aurelia at approximately 7:10 p.m. Upon arrival, officers located one person deceased at the scene. As police secured the area, residents reported a significant law enforcement presence, including numerous OPP vehicles and a police helicopter searching overhead. And the Scout Valley trail system was temporarily closed while they processed the scene. The investigation was led by the Aurelia OPP Crime Unit with assistance from OPP Criminal Investigations Branch, the Office of the Chief Coroner, and the Ontario Forensic Pathology Service. OPP later announced that Devin Alamina of Brampton had been arrested and charged with second-degree murder in connection with the incident. He was held in custody pending a court appearance, and police have since identified the victim as Justin Van Allen, 47 years old. And according to investigators, Van Allen was walking his dogs when he was randomly attacked.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, so anyone with information is asked to contact Aurelia OPP. And a GoFundMe campaign has also been established to support Van Allen's family, and there's a link on our website to that.
Okay. On June 3rd, 2026, a fatal altercation inside the Donnacona Institution, a federal prison in Quebec, claimed the life of 30-year-old inmate Tarek Boyden. According to the Correctional Service Canada, Boyden suffered fatal injuries during an altercation involving other inmates while in federal custody. He later died as a result of those injuries. Authorities say Boyden was cornered inside the prison gymnasium, where multiple inmates allegedly attacked him repeatedly with a homemade bladed weapon. At the time of his death, Boyden was serving a life sentence, which began on April 14, 2025. Boyden was sentenced to life in prison after being convicted of first-degree murder. He and a co-accused ambushed and fired 17 shots to kill Nichol Lapai, a member of rival gang outside the Crazy Moon strip club in Laval, Quebec in August 2021. His co-accused in the Laval murder, Sylvain Kababuchi, was also killed by inmates at the exact same facility in July 2025. So that's interesting. The
Yeah.
fact that they were both killed basically
Yeah.
1 year apart. So Tarek Yusuf Boden was a 30-year-old high-ranking street gang member. Law enforcement identified him as an influential member of the criminal street gang known as Arab Power. Prior to the Laval murder, he was tied to a targeted shooting in Kitchener-Waterloo that left a man with 14 gunshot wounds. Oh, it's amazing living after that.
Yeah.
As is standard procedure following an inmate death, Correctional Service Canada has launched an internal review to examine the circumstances surrounding the incident. Police in the coroner have also been notified and are investigating in accordance with CSC policy. Authorities have not released additional details about the altercation or whether any charges are suspected or expected as the investigation continues. Yeah, it's interesting from our experience that whenever there's like a murder in a prison and that it can take quite a while for
Yeah.
like suspects to be named or like arrested, or at least being told that as the
Yeah.
public and that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting that like you would figure that there's like a lot of cameras in that, especially in the gymnasium,
Yeah,
that
for sure.
they would know who did that, but they haven't arrested it. But I guess the thing is they're not going anywhere
No.
unless they're going to get released. But if he's in a place where they're all serving like long terms, then maybe they're not going to get released. So anyways, I guess we'll eventually probably be informed by like who he is. And also it could be somebody who already has like a charge of first degree murder. So
Yeah, it
who did
could be.
it. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. So now we get to the part of the podcast where we look at some updates on some previous cases we've covered. So Toronto police are continuing to update their investigation to the 2024 death of Ryan Williams. So just to reiterate on that case, or kind of or bring you back to it, officers were called to a medical emergency near Church Street and Shooter Street just before midnight on April 24, 2024. Williams, 38 years old, was found critically injured and rushed to hospital where he later died. In the early stages of the investigation, police believed 4 men, 2 men and 2 women had been involved in the incident. 2 of the women and 1 man were additionally identified as persons of interest. 2 days later, Joshua Pilgrim, 29, of Toronto, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Since then, the case has taken a significant turn. According to court proceedings, Pilgrim has now pleaded guilty to manslaughter. An agreed statement of facts presented in court says Williams died after falling from the 8th-floor balcony of a Church Street apartment while trying to escape a confrontation. Investigators say Pilgrim and 3 others had gone to the apartment over a dispute involving stolen Ensure nutritional drinks, which I've come to learn is very popular with drug addicts, and drugs. During the confrontation, another man assaulted Williams while Pilgrim threatened him with further violence. Court heard Williams had a history of climbing between balconies to escape dangerous situations. Prosecutors say Pilgrim knew about that behavior and admitted his threats contributed to Williams' decision to flee. As Williams attempted to climb to a neighboring balcony, he lost his grip, fell into scaffolding below, and died from his injuries. Pilgrim remains before the courts. Prosecutors are seeking a 5-year prison sentence, while the defense is asking for a sentence of 3 to 4 years. So that is a different one, I think.
Yeah, I had no idea that Ensure drinks would be something people would want to steal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I assume drugs as well. So
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe the Ensure thing was, I don't know, who knows. But yeah, it's interesting the fact that like he didn't deal the killing blow and that.
Right.
But he did make him run away, and I guess knew that he'd probably try to escape through his balcony, and then he died in that. So
Yeah.
it'll be curious to see what, obviously, like for a murder, this is like manslaughter, well, admittedly manslaughter. This isn't for a homicide, it's not a huge sentence in that, but we'll see what happens, what he actually gets sentenced to.
An Oshawa man has been sentenced after a fatal home invasion over a drug robbery plot. So another one involving drugs.
Yeah.
On the night of January 2nd, 2024, Durham Regional Police responded to reports of a disturbance at a home near Dean Avenue and Ritson Road in South Oshawa at approximately 11:30 p.m. When officers arrived, they found 62-year-old Stephen Turgeon outside the residence suffering from serious injuries. He was rushed to hospital but later died. A postmortem examination determined that Turgeon died as a result of a stabbing. Police said 2 suspects fled the scene on foot, and officers quickly located one of the suspects nearby and arrested him without incident, while the other suspect remained outstanding. The first suspect, 32-year-old Tyler Stevens of Clarington, was charged with second-degree murder. Several months later, on July 23, 2024, Durham police announced the arrest of a second suspect, Nathan Christopher Lopez, 26 of Toronto. He was also charged with second-degree murder. And the case eventually revealed what led to the deadly confrontation. Courts heard that Stevens and Lopez had planned to break into a home on Kitchener Avenue to steal cocaine. According to prosecutors, Lopez entered the residence armed with a BB gun, while Stevens initially remained outside before joining the confrontation after the occupant fought back. During the struggle, Stephen Turgeon was fatally stabbed, and after fleeing the scene, the 2 men attempted to dispose of evidence before they were eventually arrested by police. The case concluded in July 2026, and Tyler Stevens pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison. Nathan Lopez pleaded guilty to robbery and received a sentence of 6 years and 9 months. In delivering her sentence, Justice Michelle Faroust described the home invasion as a serious crime that violates safety and sanctity of people's homes. While the prosecutors had sought for longer prison terms, the judge imposed shorter sentences after considering the circumstances of each offender, including Stevens' long history of drug addiction.
Yeah, I'm just kind of shocked that manslaughter versus second degree murder.
Yeah.
I don't know, like a bit. I think, to be honest, I think Parliament's got to pass something about home invasions and that
Yeah.
makes it like a minimum second degree murder, because I don't know, this is kind of insane in that. And the other thing too is second degree murder, life, 10 years parole. You're at least serving the 10 years. If they're getting manslaughter and 8.5 years in prison, you'll only do 2/3 of that.
Yeah.
So it's way less than that.
And it seems kind of, I don't know, saying, oh, well, he did have a drug addiction, but so?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody died.
Obviously, somebody's willing to break into someone's house and kill them and that for drugs and that, or looking for that. They're a fairly dangerous person. So, I would argue, keeping them in prison, it's better for society. They can't.
Yeah, for sure.
They can't commit crimes against us on the outside while they're stuck there. So, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. All right. So now something similar, another case. So Osman Qaida, Reyes Muxka Usman, and Ali Shakmi sentenced to 8 years in prison for a 2023 Burnaby, BC home invasion that left Ryan Nagy, 19, dead and a woman injured. So on June 29th, 2023, Burnaby RCMP responded to reports of a home invasion at a residence of the 7600 block of 17th Avenue at approximately 7 a.m. When officers arrived, they found 19-year-old Ryan Nagy dead inside the home. A woman was also located suffering from injuries that were not considered life-threatening. Investigators quickly determined the attack appeared to be targeted, and the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, or IHIT, took over the case. In September of 2023, IHIT announced that 4 people in their 20s have been charged with manslaughter and forcible confinement in connection with Nagy's death. At the time, police did not release the identities of the accused. A little surprising. As the case moved through the courts, more details emerged about what happened inside the home. According to evidence presented in BC's Supreme Court, a group of individuals forced a way into Nagy's residence intending to steal firearms. During the home invasion, Ryan Nagy was fatally stabbed. On April 5th, 2026, 22-year-old Ali Shakmi was sentenced to 8 years in prison after pleading guilty to manslaughter and several weapons offenses. The sentencing judge cited Shakmi's limited expressions of remorse and violent behavior while in custody as aggravating factors. His guilty plea and young age were considered mitigating circumstances. Around the same time, Reyes Muxka Usman was also charged after pleading guilty to manslaughter, who received a 6-year prison sentence. Then on July 13th, 2026, Usman Qaida became the third person sentenced in the case. He was also sentenced to 6 years in prison for his role in Nagy's death. The court heard that Usman Qaida was 19 years old at the time and of the offense and is now 22. He has no prior criminal record, although I don't think that guarantees that he hasn't done any crimes before. But anyways, born in a refugee camp in Ivory Coast, he immigrated to Canada with his family in 2010 and grew up in Burnaby. Qaida graduated from high school, works in construction, is the father of 2 young daughters. Since being released on bail, amazingly, in October 2024, he has complied with strict conditions, including electronic monitoring and a curfew. The court also received several letters of support describing him as a caring father, hardworking, and compassionate. Based on his background, family support, and conduct while on bail, the judge concluded that Qaeda had strong prospects for rehabilitation. After receiving credit for the time he had already spent in custody before being released on bail, Qaeda has approximately 5 years and 9.5 months remaining to serve on his sentence. So yeah, the case kind of shows basically like this is a targeted home invasion, and
Yep.
I don't know, these people
Another one.
ended with the death of a 19-year-old and left another victim injured, and like yeah, these people just got manslaughter for that. So
Yeah.
it's just madness. I don't know what to say.
Tanner Fox, already serving life for Ripudman Singh Malik's murder, has been sentenced in a 2022 Abbotsford killing of Chad Clovis. So on March 21st, 2022, when Abbotsford police responded to a residence in the 3500 block of Latimer Street after receiving reports of a shooting at approximately 10 p.m., when officers arrived, they found 41-year-old Chad Clovis suffering from serious injuries. He was later pronounced dead. At the time, investigators said the case was still in its early stages, and Detective Corporal Suki Desi stated that, based on information available, Clovis's death did not appear to be connected to the ongoing Lower Mainland gang conflict. The investigators later revealed that he was killed during another home invasion.
Yeah.
According to the evidence presented in court, 25-year-old Tanner Fox entered the home with an accomplice in an attempt to steal drugs, cash, and jewelry. Courts heard that Clovis was fatally shot while trying to protect his family. Fox was originally charged with second-degree murder, but later pleaded guilty to manslaughter. In July 2026, BC Supreme Court Justice Catherine Murray sentenced Fox to 15 years in prison for the death.
So that's a lot longer.
Yeah, but still, he
Yeah.
shot
Yeah.
him.
Yes, no doubt. But I'm just like compared to like those other
Yeah.
charges, like that's because manslaughter you can charge you can go depending, and go from 0 to like up to life in that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. That's Justice Murray rejected arguments that his difficult upbringing reduced his responsibility, describing the killing as part of a broader pattern of violent offending. The judge also noted that Fox had previously been convicted in the unrelated murder of Surrey businessman Ripudman Singh Malik and is already serving life for that sentence.
So okay.
Yeah, his parole eligibility for that sentence begins in July 2042. And family members of Chad Clovis delivered emotional impact statements describing the lasting impact of his death on their lives. And Justice Murray expressed limited optimism regarding Fox's rehabilitation as she imposed the sentence. But I guess if he's already doing life, the 15 years doesn't really matter.
The point was kind of moot in that, like he's already serving 25 years, like in that. So whatever they sentenced him for manslaughter didn't really matter. But I guess interesting that she like sentenced him for quite a long time for that. And it's interesting too that I guess I guess I don't know. I guess they must have made a deal with the Crown to go from second-degree murder to manslaughter. It might have been too that maybe they're like, well, he's already serving 25 years.
Yeah, and
life
he can't. He's not eligible for parole till.
So I guess it's kind of like, because the charges can't really stack. So
Yeah.
All right. So Hamilton man Damian Warren Baker pleads guilty to manslaughter in the 2023 death of infant Annalise Story. So on November 5th, 2023, at approximately 5:46 p.m., Hamilton Emergency Services responded to a 911 call reporting a baby in distress at an apartment on Champlain Avenue. When first responders arrived, they found 4-month-old Annalise Story unresponsive. Annalise was transported to hospital and was pronounced dead shortly afterward, despite its effort to save her. In the early stages of the investigation, Hamilton police said the circumstances surrounding Annalise's death appeared suspicious. At the time, Annalise had been the care of her mother's boyfriend, Damian Warren Baker. So I guess he was the boyfriend, but not the father. He cooperated with investigators and was released without charges while police continued an investigation. Over the following months, Hamilton police conducted extensive interviews with family members and executed multiple search warrants as they investigated the circumstances Surrounding the infant's death, a full autopsy later determined that Annalie's death was not from natural causes and revealed injuries consistent with a criminal investigation. The autopsy found that Annalie died from blunt force head trauma caused by multiple impacts.
Yeah.
Medical findings included 2 skull fractures, swelling, and multiple scrapes and bruises. Investigators determined that Warren Baker had been caring for his girlfriend's daughter at his grandmother's apartment while Annalie suffered the fatal injuries. According to agreed statements of fact presented in court, Warren Baker waited approximately 30 minutes before calling 911 after realizing Annalie was unresponsive. Investigators say Warren Baker provided police and the child's mother with several conflicting explanations about how the injuries occurred. According to Crown Prosecutor Kelly Frew, Warren Baker eventually provided another account in which he said he had not taken in his medication and punched the infant because she would not stop crying. Warren Baker's defense lawyer told the court that he does not remember making that admission. On May 1st, 2025, 23-year-old Damian Warren Baker was arrested in Hamilton and charged with manslaughter in connection with Annalie Story's death. In July 26, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter, and then he's scheduled to return on court on September 28, 2026 for sentencing. So it'll be interesting to see what's, because manslaughter, it's a pretty broad range, as we've already talked about today, what he ends up getting in that. So.
And if he's on medication, maybe this will also be an NCR.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. So I guess we'll see. We'll update that in September 28th when he is actually sentenced. So, okay. So that was our episode for the roundup of all the June homicides in Canada. Well, not all of them, but some of the more noteworthy ones. Just to reiterate what we said at the top, we have a website, homicidecanada.com, where we try to have a post for every homicide plus pages for all the provinces and major municipalities. Our email is info@homicidecanada.com. Tell us if we missed a murder in your municipality or province, or if there's anything else we'd like to say. Our Twitter or X is homicide_Canada. DMs are always open. And then Facebook or Instagram, just search Homicide Canada and it should come up. And Facebook is, we have a Facebook. Yeah, our Facebook is pretty lively comment-wise sometimes. So it's worth checking out. So until our next episode.